Time passed, and a quarter of an hour soon arrived. Tu Ren issued a roar of despair. He jumped out of the ring with a heart. However, in the fantasy world, the true and the false were indistinguishable. The power of the storm spirit is almost exhausted. In case of exhaustion, his power will drop greatly. Yi Ming will have a chance to kill him with a single blow. In order to survive, he didn't care about his face anymore, and only shouted, "I confess." Yi Ming, who was about to make a move, heard the words and slowly accepted the merits. Although he could drag on, and then kill Tu Ren. However, he did not want to break the rules here, so as not to cause unnecessary trouble. Besides, the butcher is dead, and it doesn't make much difference to him to kill or not to kill. The magic array disappeared, and Yi Ming stepped out slowly. He didn't even look at Tu Ren and walked straight down the ring. Yuan Ren's Tu Ren clenched his fists and returned to the table step by step, and greeted him with countless disappointment and blame on the divine side. The great, the disciples are incompetent. Tu Ren begged, "Please forgive the great." There was no expression on the face of the Lord, and he said lightly, "Come back, your current state can no longer be compared." Tu Ren's strength seemed to be evacuated all of a sudden and slowly receded. Hatred flashed in his eyes, but no one knew whether he was hating Yi Ming or someone else. "Emperor, it's time to let the mirror shoot. 3 times in a row, it's a bit ridiculous. I don't care so much. We must pull it back sooner or later," said a minister. God said, "Let's just pass the mirror." At this time, the court was quiet, and people were very surprised by Yi Ming's victory. You know, Yi Ming only played a killing step in the whole process, and did not do anything. He only defeated the opponent with a magical array. This method showed extraordinary wisdom and strength, which was frightened by all forces, and the 3 gods and the 5 elements of the dynasty began to pay attention to him. Little brother, don't be too eye-catching at first, it's best to be a victory. Although it is easy to spike others, it is also easy to fall into passive. Master Jin Xuanbai secretly voiced, "Also, you can kill with a force, don't use 2 points, you have to keep your strength." Yi Ming nodded. He knew that this was because the master was afraid he would expose his strength too early, which would trigger the opponent's calculations. He nodded. "Brother, I understand. The competition on the field is still going on," the host announced. "Next, the 5 elements of the gods are facing the mirror, facing the heavenly ****** to Guhao." The 5 elements god headed in the direction, and a young boy in purple came out. His face was old-fashioned, pale, and cold-tempered, and fluttered down on the stage like a feather. Hao also took the stage. He stared at the other person and said, "You're a mirror. Don't surname. I haven't heard of it." The young man named Jing said quietly, "Of course you have never heard of me, because I have never appeared in the Tianyuan continent. As for the surname, in our world, only the nobles have a surname." "Oh, so, you are a man of heaven and earth." As soon as Ji Yu Hao condensed, "I don't know which civilization you are from." "I'm from a civilized civilization," Jing replied slowly and slowly. "You probably haven't heard of it. Well, no matter what civilization you come from, I will defeat you." Ji Yu Hao stepped out and the detective grabbed at the other side. What he performed was one of the powerful martial arts of the heavenly ****** earth, the celestial claw. Sky claw is extremely powerful. Once it is cast, the sky is full of claws, extremely strong, and almost flawless. Faced with such an attack, the enemy can often only fight hard and cannot dodge. Faced with the overbearing shaking claws, Jing's expression was very quiet. Suddenly he turned into an illusory shadow, moved against the ground, and then flew away, avoiding a blow. What magical power! Ji Yu Hao suddenly felt a punch and felt very uncomfortable. After that, his celestial claws repeatedly attacked the ground, and every time he flew, the first was that the shadow was moving too fast, and the second was that the shadow had no entity. Even if it hit, it would not hurt the opponent at all. He only heard the sound of Boom boom, the ground was punched by him one after another, but the mirror was still clear. He was like a fish swimming on the ground, smart and weird. Seeing this scene, Yi Ming was slightly surprised, and said, did he really become a shadow, invisible and insignificant? External forces cannot hurt him. Quote. The master gazed at the shadow of the lightning movement, and said, little brother, I have heard of this magical power, called shadow killing. It is a ninja spell. It is very powerful. When this spell is cast, it will really become a shadow, invisible and innocuous, and not afraid of general damage. Moreover, the caster can suddenly transform from a shadow to an entity. The conversion speed is very fast, and it is very strange, and it is easy to give a fatal blow to the enemy. I see, this Ji Yu Hao is afraid that it will be dangerous. After hearing this, Yi Ming suddenly thought of something, saying, brother, this person has been reluctant to come forward to the competition. About his shadow killing, has a time limit and a limited number of times. Quote. Brother, it should be if the younger master has a way to consume his shadow killing technique, there should be a great chance to defeat him. Quote. The advantages are too obvious, and the obvious disadvantages will be revealed. Quote. Yi Ming said faintly, he seemed to think of a way to deal with this forbearing genius. On the field, Ji Yu Hao also found a way to deal with it after repeated attacks were invalid. He no longer wastes his energy to blindly attack, but stands in place, stays still, and starts to break quietly. At this time, the mirrored shadow was swimming around him, left and right, and far and near, as if also looking for opportunities. The approach taken by Ji Yu Hao is pretty good. Quote. Zhao Xin, a bystander, offered his opinion. Only in this way, the mirror has the opportunity to use other means. Quote. Ding Wei. Yes, if I am a mirror, I can take advantage of it. The voice didn't fall, the lines suddenly lit up on the ground, 12 dark, ghostly shadows burst out from the ground, and the speed was strangely fast. They suddenly swelled into human-shaped ghosts and flew towards Ji Yu Hao. Moreover, even though it was cloudy, these ghosts all had their own shadows, dark and thick, and stuck to the ground like ink. At the same time, the mirrored shadow disappeared strangely. Ji Yu Hao seems to have been prepared for a long time. He suddenly slammed, and stomped his feet. The ground under his feet was also lit with lines, and a layer of purple light rose on his body, condensing into a light curtain, blocking the ghosts outside. The 12 ghosts were infinitely powerful, all of them had a decisive level of attack power. The giant palm struck the light curtain, emitting a thunderous sound, making Ji Yu Hao's body shake continuously, almost standing on an unstable foot. Shadow kill. A low drink came from the ground. When Ji Yu Hao heard this voice, the cold murderous spirit had pierced the soles of his feet. It turned out that while the ghost appeared, the mirror actually hid in the ghost's shadow, thus casting a killer on Ji Yu Hao. King Kong Terrace. Boom. Ji Yu Hao was in danger, and his hands squeezed the ground. Suddenly the ground under his feet turned into a glorious lotus platform. That Guanghua had a magical effect of protecting the body and also had an effect of exorcising evil. It not only blocked the attack of the mirror below the ground, but also fixed the 12 ghosts. They screamed in smoky, and flew into the ground after a while, disappear gone. Sculpture of worms. He sneered, seemingly in his chest. The mirror suddenly appeared opposite, and said lightly, you lost. How stunned. I lost. Are you kidding me? As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly felt his body cold, and his whole face was covered with black gas. He sank, angrily. What did you do? The mirror said. I strike a ray of ghostly spirit into the soles of your feet. The evil spirit is very overbearing. If you do not remove it in time, you will hurt the root. Ji Yu Hao, quickly expel. The spirit of Guixia is very vicious and must not be delayed. An elder of Tongtian Shantu seemed to know the power of Guixia and hurriedly gave orders to let Ji Yu Hao admit defeat. Despicable man. Ji Yu Hao was shocked and angry, staring at the mirror fiercely, only to step down. 7th game, the Five Elements Dynasty, Jing Sheng. The host announced the result with a smile. Next, let's take a break, and after an hour, the test will continue. After that, the 4 great divine lands and the 5 great dynasties respectively sent some people to hand over the territory. The previous 7 games, each of which represents the ownership of a territory, these must be planned for the first time. The Lord of the Immortal Hall, and the leaders of other forces, entered a portal. As for the space behind the portal, outsiders could not know. Leaders must be in it, to decide the ownership of the territory, and each resolution represents a huge change in interests. It may be a vassal state, or it may be the rights of Tianweishan. During the break, Yi Ming asked Jin Xuanbai with curiosity, "Brother, I don't know which territory I won before. Which area is it big?" Jin Xuanbai smiled. "The gate of our immortal temple is located in the territory of the White Tiger dynasty, so the disputed areas are mainly in the area of the original White Tiger dynasty, and a small part is in the territory of the former Qinglong dynasty and the Suzaku dynasty. The land Yuan, Shaoxidi, was a vassal state of the Qinglong dynasty, named Zaihua State, has a population of tens of billions. There are many spiritual mines in the country, which can be said to be extremely valuable." Quote. Yi Ming, however, knows what billions of people mean, and it is indeed worthless. In such a region, there can be many schools, gangs, and even the rise of 1 or 2 great religions. This West country does not seem to be under the Eastern Qi country, so it cannot be underestimated. Ding Wei smiled grinningly. "Xiao Ba, you have made great achievements. What kind of rewards will you have by then?" Yi Ming blinked his eyes and joked deliberately. "Sister, I don't have a wife yet, I'll ask the host to give you my wife, okay?" Ding Wei's eyes widened and she made a strange noise. "Okay, you dare to joke with your sister and watch fists." The powder boxing hit him clearly, but Yi Ming didn't feel any pain, he just grinned. On the side, Yu Yan frowned slightly. It seemed that he did not like Yi Ming so much jokingly, nor did he like Ding Wei very much. Yi Ming's Yu Guang, after capturing her expression, deliberately asked, "Sister Yu, why do you always have a face? Women always have an expression and it is easy to grow old quickly." "No effort," Yu Yan said coldly. She didn't even bother to look at Yi Ming. Yi Ming felt boring. He didn't know about the relationship between Xuan and Ding Wei, so he secretly asked Ding Wei, "Sister, has Yu conflicted with you?" Ding Wei snorted coldly. It seems that I hate everyone around me. I haven't made any friends for so long since I started. For a while, I approached her deliberately, but I got a gray nose. Oh, really, I'm impatient, so our relationship is not very good. Quote. Ming scratched his head. It's strange, does she have a problem with her temperament? I thought so too, but later I learned that this is a strange technique called destructive divine gong. For this practice, it seems that humanity needs to be extinct. She is still pretty good now for the promotion. You will gradually lose the human passion and eventually become like stones, wood, or even birds and beasts. Quote. When speaking, Ding Wei's face was disgusting, and she obviously did not agree with the cultivation of this kind. Gongfa. Yi Ming was surprised. Someone has such a method, why did Sister Yu practice it? Could it be very powerful? It's not a question of how strong or weak Gong Fa is, but the origin of this Yu is very mysterious. At that time, when the master of the temple swam in the sky and passed through a void, he saw a magic basket with a baby lying in that basket. When she was picked up, her body had already been working on the destructive magic. By the way, even the master of the palace did not know the name of the method. Ding Wei shrugged. Quote. In short, you still stay away from her. She really is not suitable for friends. Practice destructive powers as a baby. Is this too early? Yi Ming shook his head. The master of the palace said that this destructive divine skill belongs to the bloodline divine power, and can be passed down from generation to generation through the bloodline. Speaking of this, Ding Wei was not envious. Top exercises. Quote. Yi Ming took a deep look at Yu Yan. Somehow, he felt that the other side should be lonely in his heart. Shouldn't he have such an emotion when practicing the destructive magic? When talking, Zenuo came there with a smile, and said from a distance, "Brother Yi, let's meet again." At the beginning, in the virtual world, the two sides had exchanges. Yi Ming felt good about it. He immediately got up and arched a hand and laughed and said, "The fight before Brother Shi was eye-opening, my brother admired it." Zenuo waved his hand. "Where and where? I am far worse than Yi Shang. Yi Shang defeated Tu Ren without one killing move. I can't do anything really smart." In the previous test, in the face of the violent Tu Ren, Zenuo chose to admit defeat wisely, which shows that he did not want to fight desperately with it. Yi Ming. Zhao Shang's tricks just made Brother Shi laugh. By the way, Brother Ji, you are the only one from the Sea of God, as only Brother Ji participating in the test. Zenuo smiled slightly. Brother Yi asked, "Is it the bottom of the Sea of God?" Yi Ming grinned. "How dare! We are the Immortal Temple, and I am the only Wujun, so I am the only one to participate. I asked such a sentence to see if there would be other opponents." Yi Ming's frankness eased Jinyu's precautions a little, and he laughed. "Besides me, there is a master of the Sea of Gods. But if it is not necessary, my master will never shoot." "Oh, I don't know which brother?" Yi Ming continued to ask. Zenuo smiled, hee, but did not answer, saying, "Brother Yi will know when the time." He was talking, and a loud voice suddenly came from the distance. "I set a bet here, and visionary seniors will bet soon." Yi Ming thought the sound was familiar. He turned around and saw a young man standing under the ring with a smile, actually setting up a handicap in such a place. And this person is his classmate at Dongqi College, Bao Baofan. Bao Fanfan, while soliciting gamblers, secretly looked at Yi Ming's side. When he saw Yi Ming also came over, he quickly turned away and seemed afraid to look at him. "Not extraordinary," he exclaimed immediately. Bao Fanfan jumped up as if he had been shocked. Farting ran over. His look was excited and pleasantly surprised, and cried, "Boss! I thought you were not willing to recognize me when you became a disciple of God and soil." Yi Ming rolled his eyes. "So you just saw me clearly just because you didn't come because you were afraid I wouldn't recognize you?" Bao Fan grinned. "Boss, look at me now, I am still a small warrior, and my family was ruined a long time ago, and there is nowhere to go alas, my current situation is very easy to inferiority." Yi Ming busy asked, "What happened in your house?" Bao Fanfan sighed. "In the first few years, my dad started doing bodyguard business. The business was good at the beginning. After I left Dongqi College, I went to help at home. Unexpectedly, I only met the group of darts on the first trip. Great gangster, my dad and my brother, and 10 darts were killed, and the darts were robbed. If I hadn't had Zhang Jianfu on my body, I'm afraid I can't live." After that, I never dared to go home again, because I couldn't afford the darts. I have been drifting around and have no place to stay. This is not the case, I just caught up with this. Come in." After speaking, vicissitudes appeared on his face, and it is clear that he has experienced too much these years. Yi Ming patted his shoulder, sorrowful. "Rest assured, you will follow me later." Bao Fanfan nodded strongly. He wept with joy, wiping his tears, and said, "Boss, I can rely on you for the rest of my life." Bao Fanfan beckoned to the distance suddenly at this moment. A man raised his eyebrows and walked over with a bowed waist. He seemed to be shocked by the power of the powerful people around him, and did not dare to go too straight. Man approached and raised his face. Yi Ming was surprised and said, "It's you, Husainer." This Husan was originally a slave of the Yi family, but was later charged by him, but because he didn't trust this person very much, he hadn't used it very much, and he was left in the Qinglong dynasty within a few days, leaving it to himself. Off. Yi Ming never expected that he would walk with Bao Fanfan. When Husainer saw Yi Ming, it was really tearful in his eyes, and he fell on his knees with a thump, crying, "My grandfather, I can find you." Yi Mingle said, "Husan, have you been looking for me?" Husan nodded vigorously. No, since the grandfather accepted the younger has been hoping to do something with the grandfather. Who knows, the grandfather never returns. The young immortal, he looked for the grandfather. Later, Xiao Xiao finally found the news of Dongqi College to inquire about him. Quote. Bao Fanfan said, "Boss, your servant is loyal. He just spent a little half a year at Dongqi College and inquired about you everywhere. Later, I saw him as pitiful, so I took him around and miscellaneous, and returned home with me be a housekeeper. Do not hide the boss, in the past few years, the two of us can be regarded as dependent on each other. I also know that Husseiner was not a thing at that time. But the boss, after my observations in these years, he is completely different from before." Quote. Yi Ming gave a careful look at Husseiner. He was proficient in the art of ambition and knew each other. At that moment, he felt that Husseiner was indeed very different from the previous one. His whole personality seemed to have changed. Great change. He glanced at him and nodded. "You get up, follow it later." Husseiner had a dogfight at the Yi family and insulted Yi Ming. Now listening to his words, he is extremely grateful. Tong tong tong. Just slammed his head, and then pointed out the oath. "Master, rest assured, the young must be loyal to report death." Quote. "No one wants you to die." Yi Ming snorted. "As long as you don't have a second heart, extraordinary will never treat you." Husseiner was overjoyed, and he repeatedly said yes. Yi Ming glanced at the scene and said with a smile, "Extraordinary, you are so brave, you dare to open here. But you need to see clearly, the audience here is either a **** or a martial arts. As for your net worth, you can also open a bet." Quote. Bao Fanfan faced bitterly. "Boss, am I not rich? I can only try to bite the bullet. Try. In case of losing one, you have to get in your life." Shaking his head, Yi Ming took out a storage pocket and handed it to him. "There are 10 billion long-lived coins in it, this is your capital today. Remember how we used to gamble? As long as it is my turn to play, you bet me to win and guarantee a big profit." Quote. The two had cooperated as early as at Dongqi College. Yi Ming came to the stage to compete with others. Bao Fanfan sat down in the stage, and as a result, he made a lot of money every time. Now he takes care of everything and doesn't feel rusty at all. So when he heard Yi Ming's plan and so much money, Bao Fan shivered with excitement. He carefully looked at the storage pocket and saw that it was full of Chengsheng coins. "That's 10 billion long-lived coins. Where did Yi Ming get so much money? You know, one Chengsheng coin can be exchanged for 36,000 Fatian coins. 10 billion long-lived coins, but 36 trillion Tianyuan coins. The 10-year tax of the 5 elements divine land is afraid that it will not reach that much. Boss, do you really give me 10 billion? Bao Fanfan couldn't believe it, and asked Yi Ming. Yi Ming smiled. "Yes, I leave it to you to manage. And if I make money, I will share a large sum of your money." Bao Fan was excited and moved, his eyes were red, and said, "Boss, I didn't expect you to trust me so much. In fact, I don't deserve to follow you at all now, you." Yi Ming frowned. "I haven't seen you for a few years, and you've seen a lot of nonsense. Why, my friend of Yi Ming, can't he be a god?" Scratched his head. "That's not what I meant. I just think that I can't help you at all now. Is looking for something to use, it must be an unreliable wine and meat friend." Yi him on the shoulder. "Aside, aren't you planning to help me make money now?" After speaking, he sighed softly. "You and Zhang Heng are both my friends at Dongqi College. Unfortunately, Zhang Heng stays in the demon continent because of me. The life and death are unknown." Yi Ming said, "I will tell you about Zhang Heng later. Go ahead and prepare. I will let Brother Zhao accompany you." Zhao Xin has been listening to the conversation between the two, and said with a smile, "Little brother, if you want to work for me, you have to pay me dividends." Yi Ming smiled. "That's for sure." Zhao Xin spoke very well and immediately accompanied Bao Fanfan. Yi Ming continued to chat with Januo, and the conversation between the two sides was very pleasant. Because it is certain that Yi Ming will win, So the package is extraordinary, the buyer can only buy a specific party to win, and he, the dealer, buys Yiming Shang. In this way, the two sides will make a simple and direct bet, and the winning side takes all the money. Zhao Xin just stood aside and didn't ask. However, when he was at such a stop, it meant that Bao was an ordinary person in the temple. The trust of him in the surrounding people immediately soared, and soon people who came to gamble came to rely on him. Hey, boy, do you have any requirements for bets? Of law. Heaven and earth came over, and I don't know who the power was, anyway, he was an old gambler. Bao Fanfan bowed and smiled. This guest officer, the bet is at least 100 million legal days, and it is not capped. Well, when you drive, count me as one. The nodded contentedly, and backed away. One after another, many people came to ask, many of them were willing to gamble to earn extra money. Of course, the specific person to be escorted depends on the situation on the scene. Everyone compares eyesight and judgment. Over there, Zinuo chatted a little, and the man left, and went to talk to other people. Yiming's eyes were also inspecting. He saw an old man, Zhang Shui. The last time he took Zhang Shui to tour the Tianyuan continent, the latter returned to the Qinglong dynasty to retreat. Later, when Tianyuan changed drastically, she was forced to leave the customs and join the Five Elements gods. It can be seen that Zhang Shui's retreat has gained a lot, and now Wu Zun's practice has already been achieved. A long distance away, the two eyes met and nodded each other. Immediately, the two left the seat and soon met each other in a royal garden outside the test site. Yiming. Zhang Shui rejoiced, hugged Yiming's arm, and looked very intimate. Thank goodness, you are fine. It seems that she should be aware of the changes in Haoshan education, and she must have been worried about Yiming's safety before. I'm fine, Yiming laughed. Congratulations on your becoming Wu Zun. It seems Tianjiao fruit is still useful. Zhang Shui sighed softly. Several of my emperors have turned to the Lord, and some even sealed the king. However, the Lord has always guarded us against the relics of the dynasty and imposed restrictions on us. Yiming, if you're not happy, just leave. Where can't you practice? After that, he took Zhang Shui's hand, and two people sat side by side in the pavilion, watching the strange flowers and plants in the garden. Zhang Shui leaned against Yiming, full of joy, and said, Yiming, you are now the heir of the immortal temple. You must have extraordinary achievements in the future. Really, I think you have a better future than me. Yiming smiled slightly. Zhang Shuiqi said, what's my future? Yiming squeezed his eyes. If you marry me, wouldn't your husband and wife be expensive? Isn't this a great achievement? Zhang Shui blushed immediately. Although she knew that Yiming was joking, she was still ashamed and happy, hitting him with a sorrow and joy, saying, you are so beautiful. Huh, Zhang Shui, what are you doing? Don't you know, this Yiming is a fugitive from God's dynasty? A voice came from a distance. Yiming looked up, and it was Zhang Shang, who came from the same place as the wind. Today, he is a king of 5 elements with different surnames. Zhang Shuiqiao's face changed slightly, and she said, Mrs. Zhang is too high, you don't have to worry about my business. You don't need to worry about me. As long as your surname is Zhang, I'll manage it. Zhang Tai snorted coldly, strode forward and grabbed Yiming. He wanted to win Yiming in one fell swoop, relying on himself to be of law. Presumptuous. Yiming's eyes shot cold light, and he raised his hand to give a blow. The four-handed magic sword condenses into a killing array, turning into a ray of finger light, piercing the opponent's eyebrows, sharp and extraordinary. Zhang Tai Uehara wanted to capture Yiming, but as soon as he shot, he felt murderous and was shocked. Although Yiming is only Wu Jun now, he can break into Wu Zun at any time, and his strength can be said to be close to Fa Tianxian. He is not afraid of Zhang Taishang at all, who shot at my temple. Just then, a voice sounded in the void. It was Jin Xuanbai. The voice was in the ear, and Zhang Tai suddenly turned pale, spitting blood as soon as he woke up. Jin Xuanbai hurt him badly in just one sentence. This is a powerful means of longevity. He did not dare to stay, gave Yi Ming a stern glance, and turned away. I'm going to get rid of him sooner or later. Yi Ming said coldly, this asterisk 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 is too much to count him, and sooner or later he will take revenge. Zhang Shui sighed softly, not knowing what to say. Yi Ming nodded and returned to the trial with Zhang Shui. At this time, the people on the field were all seated together, and the host stood on the ring, and said loudly, in the second round, the first game, Zhao Wuji of the Eternal Mountain is the mirror of the 5 elements. When the mirror walked up to the ring, he still looked like that. However, the sensitive Yi that he was a little different from last time. Jin Xuanbai also found it. He observed it for a moment, and Shen said, little brother, I suspect this mirror has practiced the Sanheguishu in ninjutsu. What is Sanheguishu? Yi Ming asked, is it great? Jin Xuanbai, it's more than powerful, it's a mastery of ninjutsu. After cultivation, it can be divided into 3, condensing the mysterious body, the real body, and the physical body, and then practicing the 3 exercises at the same time. When necessary, the mysterious body can be combined with the real body into the mysterious real body. The real body and Fajin can also be combined into the true body of the true body. Even the 3 bodies can be merged into one and become a triad body, and the power is even more outrageous. Should be. Jin Zanbaida said, little master, you have to be careful. The power of this mirror is stronger than I expected. Master, rest assured, I understand. On the platform, the mirror looked coldly at Zhao Wuji, and said, I can beat you within 3 strokes. Zhao Wuji was expressionless, his body suddenly twisted, and in the eyes, he turned from a big fat man into a handsome young man. Obviously, he gave up his previous avatar and released another avatar. Zhao Wuoyuki stretched his limbs, sneered, and said, Sanheguishu. Amazing. But, have you heard of Samadhi? There was no surprise on the mirror face, faintly said, I have never heard of it. Zhao Wuji snorted coldly. My eternal mountain of gods has a lot of origin with Shandao. As far as I know, your Sanheguishu is evolved from the Sanmadian immortal body. You want to use Sanheguishu to deal with me, basically I just can't help it. Quote. The audience was talking about it, and some people talked about the origin of ninja. I have also heard people say that the path of forbearance seems to originate from a branch of Shandao, and then it sprang up and became a civilization. Nindo has undergone tremendous development. Although it is not yet a high-level civilization, it is not far away. At least it is much stronger than our martial civilization. Alas, speaking, our martial arts civilization is really weaker. Very vague so far. Quote. After all, the time is short, and given us millions of years, martial arts civilization will definitely be able to set foot in high level. Someone said. The mirror did not respond to these arguments. He raised a white light and shone the platform very brightly, so Zhao Wuji's feet were projected with a black shadow, as dark as ink. Brush. The mirror suddenly disappeared, and a weird face appeared in that shadow, smiling at him silently. Zhao Wuoyuki was frightened and flew up, and as he rose, the black shadow also expanded below, occupying almost half of the ring. Well, the mirror is hidden in the shadow again, and Zhao Wuoyuki is in trouble now. Someone exclaimed, this shadow is not afraid of attack at all, how to deal with it? Zhao Wuji was suspended in midair like that. He frowned, staring at the shadows on the ring, seemingly thinking about countermeasures. Suddenly, he laughed and said, this shadow must be your body, right? Break me. In a word, he flicked his fingers, a light flew out, appearing between him and the shadow. The shadow was illuminated by light, and it should reasonably disappear. Strangely, not only did it not disappear, it was even darker, it was so dark, and the face above it was clearer. Zhao Wuji's complexion changed slightly. He squeezed a seal with both hands and yelled, look at me breaking your body, Shanwei is infinite. After that, a cyan halo suddenly developed from behind him, and the entire platform was illuminated like a little sun. That halo, emitting millions of light needles, densely, stabbed in the dark shadows on the ground. The black shadow was stabbed by light needles, making a lot of black smoke, and then twisted, shrunk, and quickly turned into a black line, dodging like a snake on the ground. Shanwo burns the sky. Zhao Wuoyuqi opened his mouth and sprayed a cyan flame, covering the entire platform. The ground was cracked. This fire is very extraordinary. The flames are like runes. They have great power and can burn everything. Ding Wei exclaimed. There is nothing to do with the mirror, it seems that Zhao Wuji is not vegetarian. With a long howl, the mirror seemed to be unable to eat the blue fairy fire, and somehow suddenly appeared in the air. His body was twisted and entangled like Jie Tang, and he wrapped Zhao Wuji in layers. Except for the power of Chang Shangjing, few people actually saw how he appeared behind Zhao Wuoyuqi, taste the entanglement of death. Jing Yin said. For the first time there was a mood swing in his tone. It seemed that he was burned by the fairy fire, a little angry. Clothing shock. Zhao Wuoyuqi urged skill, and the pores in his clothes actually shot countless kills, killing them as sharp as a sword, cutting the mirror's body into countless pieces, and landing. Mirror failed. Ding Wei was surprised. Jin Xuanbai shook his head. He is still in the shadow state and cannot be killed. No, to be precise, the shadow is actually his body. Sure enough, the fallen part suddenly turned into a shadow, and rushed towards Zhao Wuoyuqi twice. Both sides tried their best to make the most of their magical powers, and the secret technique was repeated. No one dared to take care of it, and everyone was dazzled. Even some immortal beings could not help but sing praise. They asked themselves, when they were still martial arts, they could never do that. This battle is longer than all the previous ones. It can be seen that Zhao Wuji and Jing have used all their strengths, and the tricks are frequent. But the two were dead for half an hour, and no one could help them. Just then, the host said, "Time is up, I announce the first draw." Zhao Wuoyuqi immediately withdrew, and the mirror regained its human form. The two glanced at each other and walked off the ring without saying a word. The second game, Yi Ming, the Temple of Immortality, confronts the ancient ******* Tu Guhao. The host announced the next game. Yi Ming has seen Ji Yuhao's shot more than once. He stood on the stage and secretly confronted Baiming Road. Baiming, I will suppress my strength by 70% and keep 30%. Baiming, are you sure you want to keep only 3 points of skill? This Ji Yuhao is a genius. Do you want to keep 2 points? 3 successes are enough to beat him. I feel more and more that these people are unfathomable. Everyone has a body and a secret technique. If I expose them all at once, they will be used by them. Yi Ming said, "Got keep a whole card, otherwise I may not be able to play to the end." Quote. Yes. Bei Ming immediately urged Ruyi robes. After a while, Yi Ming's skill was suppressed to only 30%. In addition, the secret crystals on the robe and the defensive effect of the robe itself are all turned off. In other words, he has to fight Ji Yuhao with all his skill. Ji Yuhao stared at Yi Ming. This is the first time the two hands. Although Yi Ming had performed well before, he defeated the violent Turin with heavenly stride. But it is clear that Ji Yuhao doesn't look down on him. At least, Yi Ming could feel that Ji Yuhao looked at his eyes with a slight disdain. You are Yi Ming? Ji Yuhao said. This is the first conversation between the two. Yi Ming nodded. Exactly. The style of the old brother is admirable. You don't have to compliment me, no matter how much compliment I will beat you. Ji Yuhao's words were proud. It's not a compliment, it's the truth. Although you are not as strong as me, you are really very good. Yi Ming was serious. As soon as this remark came out, Ji Yuhao was almost caught. Okay, the boy turned himself up by him. Ding Wei and others under the stage laughed even more. The same time, Bao Fanfan also started to sip and bet. Buy 1 and lose 2, buy 1 2. The so-called buy one loses two, according to Bao Bao's extraordinary rules, as long as he buys Ji Yu Hao Sheng from him, if Ji Yu Hao wins, he can get double money. Those present were optimistic about Ji Yu Hao, who still accounted for the majority. After all, his reputation was outstanding, and he was a wizard who once met the heaven and earth. Looking back at Yi Ming, it seems that there are not many people who know him, and they are limited to a few circles. Okay, I'll buy Ji Yu Haosheng with 1 billion legal coins. A gambler exclaimed. Yi Ming on the stage, of course, would not wait for the following bag to be extraordinary. He said, "Ancient brother is also a martial arts man. If this is the case, we are better than boxing. Most primitive and flexible means of attack. Many powerful martial arts are often boxing." Ji Yu Hao sneered. "Big boxing. You're looking for death. But I fulfill you." Yi Ming pouted his lips. "Don't be too confident, otherwise you will be disappointed. Boy, let you see Tongtianquan." Ji Yu Hao's steps were like an arrow. The violent howling wind blew Yi Ming's clothes hunting and his hair flew backwards. I have to say that Ji Yu Hao's boxing skills are very exquisite. He is not weak in any enemies Yi Ming has encountered before, even those geniuses encountered in trials. Facing his fist, he smiled, followed by a punch, and his fist hit his fist. Ji Yu Hao's boxing is domineering and mighty, but his boxing looks soft and gentle, not a style at all. So the two punches collided, but the result was silent. Yi Ming came all the way, regardless of whether it was bright or dark, and the energy was still stubborn. The understanding of boxing is far beyond ordinary people. Although Ji Yu Hao is a genius, compared with his achievements in that year, it is still a bit inferior. With two punches connected, Yi Ming immediately took hold of Ji Yu Hao's center of gravity, and the confidence to control the opponent emerged. In contrast, although Ji Yu Hao didn't feel how brilliant Yi Ming's strength was, he didn't know why. His heart was empty and he had a very bad hunch. At this moment, for Yi Ming, his heart was full of joy. He rejoiced at the feeling of freedom of control when he turned his strength on his body. He rejoiced at the strength of his whole body, then led by him, and finally broke out. Feeling hurt. From the beginning to the end, he is a warrior in his bones, hoping to be able to punch the Beishan tiger, step on the Nane Dailong, and kill the enemy with 10 swords. Even the flowing power in his body seemed to feel his heart. They were like cheerful spirits, all of a sudden lively, as if possessing wisdom. This made him more fluent and free, and he felt a little faint. He does not need to deliberately urge, the power can run on its own, achieving all kinds of incredible killing effects. On the other side, Ji Yu Hao's feeling is very different. He feels like his body is stuck in a quagmire. His fist seemed to be stuck, and he could only advance and retreat as Yi Ming advanced and retreated. Even, his mind was disturbed, and he felt that the whole person was lowered by Yi Ming and completely suppressed. In front of Yi Ming, he seems to be a slave, and Yi Ming is the supreme slave owner who can manipulate his destiny. As soon as this feeling appeared, Ji Yu Hao was frightened and angry. A long howl, madly urged his strength, and slammed Yi Ming's fist open. Hell, what secret technique did you use? He stared at Yi Ming and asked angrily. Yi Ming didn't answer, but punched him lightly. This fist looked unfancy and didn't bring much strength, and actually hit Ji Yu Hao's shoulder with precision. Ji Yu Hao also felt that he could avoid it, but when his fist arrived, he felt a sense of chaos in time and space. He couldn't avoid it, and he took it firmly. Click. Overlapping with mysterious strength, ignoring Ji Yu Hao's horrible defense force, the layers broke open and penetrated into the bone. Ji Yu Hao felt a pain in his shoulder, his bones were cracked, and the pain was piercing. He was startled, dodging back in turmoil, and annoyed. He urged a skilled magical means and yelled, "Kill with shock." Ground-shaking killing is a magical power evolved from the Tongtian Shengquan. This magical power can shake the earth and push the power of killing into the opponent's body, causing serious injury or even killing the enemy. Ji Yu Hao punched the ground with a lot of force and broke into the ground, and their lightning was generally transmitted to Yi Ming's body. At the moment, Yi Ming felt a slight tingling of the feet, but the next moment, he found that after entering this body, he was quickly tamed by his own arrogance and the power of the king, and obediently blended in, became part of its own power. Ji Yuhao's blow was invalid, and the whole person was stunned. What happened? Could this shattering kill fail? Magical powers have some meaning. Yi Ming smiled slightly and raised his feet for a boom. The quake struck, and Yantai cracked a mouth. The people outside the platform shook for a few moments, and immediately the force that broke into his body was all beaten by Yi Ming, including the horror force that he himself had added. Expensive. The air on the ground is twisted, condensing into a dragon-shaped wind, it is screaming in the sky, and it is vivid. The next moment, the stunned Ji Yuhao was shocked by an overbearing force. His body flew up in the air, and a mouthful of blood spurted out with an incredible expression on his face. At the scene, all masters of the Valkyrie level stood up. Yi Mingzong felt that these people looked at him with a look of anticipation, as if he was a peerless treasure. Ji Yuhao, save your strength. A voice sounded, and it was the elders of the heavenly gods. The elders saw that Ji Yuhao was completely defeated and decisively let him give up. Second game, Immortal Temple, Yi Mingsheng. Haha, the boss really won. Bow extraordinary emotions, Yi Ming's victory, let him earn more than 13 billion law days. Compared to 10 billion long-lived coins, this money is only a few tens of thousands, but it is also an astronomical figure for him. Yi Ming came down to the stage over there. Ding Wei wanted to come forward to congratulate, but Jin Xuanbai pulled him. Ding Weiqi said, "Brother, what are you pulling me for? Asshole, haven't you seen Yi Ming's feelings?" Jin Xuanbai cursed. "Don't disturb him, or the main lord of your house will scratch your skin." Ding Wei was startled, and looked closely at Yi Ming, only to see a faint smile on his face. His eyes did not gather, he sat down after returning, and did not communicate with people, as if sleepwalking. At this moment, the Valkyries in their seats left the table one after another, all walking towards this side. The immortal Hall Master thought for a moment, and suddenly wielded his sleeve, and immediately an invisible force blocked the scene, and no one was within 100 steps of Yi Ming. How can those martial arts break this power? All of them looked anxious, but could only wait outside. Yi Ming smiled like that, and fell into a strange state, as if he did not care about the people and things around him. Dian Lord, what should I do? Yi Ming seems to have realized it. Will the next contest be replaced? An elder asked the Dian Lord what seemed to him and was not sure. The owner of the palace looked at Yi Ming quietly and asked, "Have you ever felt that the power in Yi Ming's body seems to have a kind of king's temperament, and easily suppress Ji Yuhao's strength?" Did the Lord feel it too? The upper elders were shocked and looked at each other with great joy in their eyes. Yi Ming seems to have reached the legendary martial arts realm, and truly has the temperament of martial arts monarch. Dianju said, "He is the real martial arts monarch." An upper elder shivered with excitement. From ancient times to the present, there are few real martial arts princes, and they are eligible for titles. Yes. Yang Tianjin, Shan Jun, and Zhou Jun are all famous people in history, and each of them has gone out of a unique martial arts path. It is said that these people have touched the martial arts triple. But unfortunately, their martial arts are inaccessible to others. Otherwise, martial arts civilization would have risen long ago, not what it is now. The main eye of the temple shot a strange light, with an unquestionable tone. Yi Ming is a genius destined to make achievements in martial arts. Before he is awake, the temple refuses all competitions. Even if we give up all the benefits, we cannot affect his ascend. Quote. The elders nodded one after another and agreed with the Lord's words. In their view, a true martial arts monarch is far superior to the immediate interests. After all, the territory can be occupied without it, but if a genius loses his chance to advance, he may never find it in the subsequent games, the 4th, and the 7th to the 7th, there is no part of the immortal temple. Until the 8th game, the host announced. The 8th game, the 5 elements God's mirror, Yi Ming, the immortal temple. At this time, Yi Ming was still immersed in a miraculous state, and it seemed that he had never heard the host at all. Jin Xuanbai glanced at him and was about to announce that the temple had abandoned the test, but Yi Ming suddenly stood up at this moment. He smiled, walked up to the ring, and stood across from the mirror. He is wandering, but still feels it. Jin Xuanbai breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that the little master needs more fighting to deepen his understanding. Today's mirror seems to be different from the previous 2 times. His entire body is like illuming, staring at Yi Ming coldly. You are a martial arts genius, and I am a forbearance genius. Today we will compare which civilization is stronger. Jing Yin laughed and turned into a shadow, flinging against the ground against Yi Ming. Yi Ming smiled, and grabbed the ground with his right palm vacantly, and a suction was generated, and the shadow was actually sucked into his hands. The shadow turned into a snake-like thing at the moment, screamed, and wrapped around Yi Ming's arm. On Yi Ming's arm, a strong shock was sent out, and the snake transformed into a shadow was instantly shaken, dropped to the ground, and twisted in pain. It seemed to be injured. As soon as Yi Ming stepped out, he slammed the shadow snake on the ground with a bang. The dust was flying and the rubble was sputtering. The snake was obviously in the shadow state, but when stepped on by Yi Ming's feet, it actually shrank into a ball and could no longer move. Strange. How did he do that? Then Zhao Wou practiced homologous exercises, so he was able to restrain the mirror, but this Yi Ming. Did he also practice Samdong? A minister of the 5 elements gods was surprised. Completely unable to understand what happened.